Right, I do sort of expect you guys to know y equals mx plus b. And I do expect you guys to know how to find the slope. If you guys want, that's kind of a hard one. I feel like those are two things you guys should sort of know. Okay, so today, yeah, there's a fair amount, you guys. So if you want for this exam only, I could give you guys a index card, like a 3 by 5 inch index card, one-sided. I could let you guys have maybe of notes this one exam, since we're kind of getting into some new stuff. But after that, the expectation is that in this class you guys know. And then the few formulas you will need, I'll give you in the future. Okay, so today we're going to finish up linear models by hand. We're going to also get into interlinear regression, and I'll go over the linear models homework. We might get into linear regression with 3 examples, possibly. I'm not sure if we'll get that far. And again, like I said, we have these things coming up due. So you have a lot of stuff due on Mindful Math. You didn't have anything for quite a while, but now you have it today, you have one on Wednesday, you have another on Friday. And then Sunday, like I said, this is really just half of this one I split off and moved down here because it was stuff we hadn't quite covered yet, so I just took those 8 problems and moved them into here. Your exam, I'd like to have it either a week from today or a week from Wednesday. We'll see how things go probably today and Wednesday and kind of see where we're at with that. The sooner we have it, then the more time it gives you for stuff in the future, kind of to do other things in the future. So let's go ahead and start in. So let's go ahead and grab the linear models by hand. Handout. So.
Well, you wanted us to remind you to pass out the practice test this
Oh
week.
yeah. Okay, good. So I'll go ahead.
Linear models?
I'm sorry? It is, let me see.
Unit
It looks like this.
2.2.
Okay, yeah, unit 3.
Oh, unit 3.
Oh, we did not finish that one. So this is the one we're working on now. And yes, and I will go ahead and pass out the exam 1 practice questions. So this is almost exactly what the exam will be like. This is very, very close. Okay. So everybody has this one out. So what we were so far, just as a reminder, what we did is we found the 2 things that vary. Yeah.
I wasn't here last class, so I don't have that handout.
Okay. The 2 things that vary in the problem. So the 2 things that vary in this problem are, what are the 2 things that vary? I think we can look at it right now. The 2 things that vary in this problem.
Oh, it was the hours and gallons of water.
Yep. Oh, you need to. Yep, the hours and the amount of water. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Can you see that too?
Yes.
And so what are the 2 things that vary in this problem?
The amount of water and the hours.
Yep, and the time. So those are our variables. Remember that the thing that we can control is our x. If there's nothing that we can control, then ask me later. If there's nothing we can control, then we should have x as our time. So our x is either the thing we can control or time. Is everyone more with that? Okay. So then we took a look at it and said, okay, so our time, hours, X is hours, Y is water, right, water gallons. So then we figured out the things that go together. So 2 hours goes with 4,500 gallons of water, so that's 1 point. 2 comma 4,500. And then we found another one. We said, oh look, here's another one. After 5 hours, it's 2250 gallons. So that's our second point. 5 comma 2250. So from there, we're able to sort out a bunch of stuff. Right? We made a graph, and we graphed those. And then we figured out the slope. Right? So then the slope, we said was, which we called M, is equal to the rise over the run. In this case, you can either look at the graph and figure out how much it rose, or you can take your, make this into x2 comma y2, and make this into x1 comma y1. It's the, and this is kind of how I like to do it myself. 2 comma 4,500, that's my first point. And I write my second point, 5 comma 2250. And then it's the y's over the x's. So I'm going to do, we can do it like this if you want, on top, and then this one minus that one on the bottom. So it's going to be 2250 minus 4,500 on top, 5 minus 2 on the bottom. Whichever point you start with, you have to start with for both the x and the y. Like I can't start, I couldn't do this. You can't start with this one and then go back like that. That's not allowed. Right? If I start from the 5, from the 2050, I start from the 5 and subtract the 2. So this becomes 2250 minus 4,500 over 5 minus 2. And what we found is we got negative 2250 over 3, which we said was negative 750, once we simplified that out.
How would you know it wasn't 4,500 minus 2,250?
You could do that.
Oh, okay, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Okay,
But if you did that, then you'd get 2250 over negative 3,
yeah.
which again ends up being, remember whether the negative is on the bottom, or the top, or the front, it's all the same. So we'll just put it in the front. Make our lives easier. Good? Okay. Yeah, if we did it the other way, we would have, like I said, we would have had 4,500 minus 2,250, which would be positive 2,250, over 2 minus 5, which would be negative 3. So the negative would just have shifted down to here, and it doesn't matter. Yeah, good question. Okay, so, do you put the or? I could do that. Or 4,500 minus 2,250 over 2 minus 5. And that would equal 2,250 over negative 3, which is negative 750. Or, right, okay? All right, so then, remember we talked about the important thing, one of the important things is interpret. Right, interpret. I'm going to ask you to interpret things. And so interpret the slope in the context of this problem. In context. A problem. And if you do that, then you'd say, what does this mean, negative 750? Well, what is this? What's my y? Water, gallons of water? What's my x? What's my x, Alex?
The average?
Right, so I lose 750 y's per x's. So,
So we said for every hour, we lost 750 gallons.
yep,
That's what we said.
yep. So this is really negative 750 gallons per hour. Right, because my y's, it's y over x. It's my change in, it's the, right, change in y over the change in x. Right, because I took, these are y's, and these are x's. So it's gallons per hour, so it means that we lose lose 750 gallons of water every hour. That, when I say interpret on the exam, and I will, that is what you were supposed to say. Right? If it's negative, it means you're losing it. If it's positive, it means you're gaining it. You're gaining what? This, every, that. Okay, so let's take a look. I think that's where we left off. So the next part was writing the function that moles the amount of the water in the tank. So here's the thing. We have our slope. We do not have our b. We have our m. Right, remember, the whole point is we're trying to find the equation y equals mx plus b. We need to find our m and our b, and we're golden. Once we find our m and our b, we have our equation. So far, we have our m, we need to find our b. And b is our initial amount. In other words, when x is 0, what's our y? But the thing is, we don't have, this time, they didn't give us when x is 0. Right? Usually they'd give it to us. Like all the problems before, they've given it to us. This time they didn't. So now we have to figure out what b is. So let's take a look at points in general. So the way that points work is all along the equation is true for every point along that line. So, for example, switch over to here. Bigger. So if I pick an equation y equals, I don't know, 3x plus 1. Everywhere along this line, if I take, let's do something equal. We'll do something even easier. 2x. 2x. Everywhere along this line, my y will be twice whatever x is. So here, x is 2.42, y is double that, 4.84. So everyone see that? So everywhere along this line, everywhere, every single one of these points on this line makes this equation y equals 2x true. Everywhere along this line, if I put in 1.8 for x, 2 times that is 3.6. That's my y. So this is true. Every point along this line makes the equation y equals 2x true. There's no point like 1.05 comma 4 is not on there because that would make y equal 2x not true. Does everybody, you guys see what I'm saying? So the beauty of this is that I can take any point I want, put it into this equation, y equals, I know my m, negative 750, x plus b, and this will be true. So if I can substitute in and only have one variable, then I can find that one variable. Do I know a particular x and y that go together?
Yes.
Yes, actually, no, two of them.
Yeah.
So we can either use either point, 2 comma 4,500
Mhm.
or 5 comma 2250, and substitute either one of them in for x and y, and we know this equation will be true. So since we know it's true, we just have to, that will help us figure out what b is. We can find the b. So I kind of like the 2 and the 4,500 because it's smaller numbers, or they're kind of easier numbers to work with.
Closer to 0, right? So that's
Yeah.
easier.
2 is closer to 0, and 4,500 is pretty round. So are you guys okay with using that one? We can use either. And then we'll get the same answer for b, either way. So let's use 2 comma 4,500. And we'll put the 4,500 in for, that's, okay, so quick question. 2 comma 4,500, which one's my x? 2, it's the first one, because x is always our first variable we have. And then we have to add a second variable, y, that's our second one, right? That goes up this way. So my y is 4,500, so I'm going to put in 2 for x, 4,500 in for y, that goes there, this goes here. So I'll end up with 4,500 equals negative 750. Again, parentheses around the 2, so you know it's just not a 2 being added or thrown on the end, plus b. Okay, so we need to simplify the multiplication, this multiplication here. Because that 2 is in parentheses, I'll multiply it by the 7,500. If I do that, I'll get negative 1,500 plus b. So now I need to figure out what b is. I want to figure out what b is, so I'm going to add 1,500 to both sides. I'm going to draw a little line down here so I keep my equals straight on both sides. So whatever I do on one side, I have to do the other side. Okay, and then combine like terms. Here I'll get 4,500 plus 1,500 is 6,000. On this side, on the other side, I get b. So now I know that I found my b. My b is 6,000. Do you guys want to check in with your neighbors on how we found that, so you feel better about it? Why don't you guys take 30 seconds, talk to your neighbors about it, so you understand kind of our steps of how we found that. All right, so now, do we know what our m is? Do we know what our m is? Negative 750, great. Do we know what our b is? 6,000. Do you guys want me to try using the other point to prove that you could use either one? Do people like that, or are you guys good without it? Good? If anyone wants me to, I'll use the other point. I'm happy to do that. You'll still get b 6,000. No? All right, that's fine. That's good. All right, so now I have my m and my b. I can write the equation. What's the equation? Y equals
Negative 750 parentheses
x.
x
Yep.
plus 6,000.
Plus my b, 6,000. Done. No, because it's y equals mx plus b. Okay, so, let's play this out. At one point along the line, at one point, x is 2 and y is 4,500. This is just one point. It's not the whole equation. This is just at one moment along the line, it's there. This is all the points along the line. Right? This is just that one moment. At that one moment, y is 4,500 and x is 2. We're just taking one point and finding one point along the line to figure out what b is. So this equation is just the equation of one point. This is the equation for all points, all x's and y's, as x and y change. So I'll show you what I mean. Y equals what? Negative 750x plus 6,000. Oops, let me make it bigger. Y should be 0 to And then x might be 0 to, oh wait, x should be 0 to 5. Y should be 0 to 5,000.
There.
Yeah, there we go. There, that helps. So there's my line. So this is equation of every point along the line. What point we just used was 4,500, so that was when x was 2. So this is just one point. Oops, I can't get to it. Oop, there it was. This is just one point along the line. The equation of the whole line is this, every point. Do you guys see the difference? So we put in this one point, 2, 4,500, to figure out what b is, so we can find the equation of all the line, the whole line. We're just using it to find what b was. Because we know what y is. We needed to find b, so we can plug it into our equation and know the equation for everything. Okay, so
You can add or subtract the same number to either side and still have a point on the line, right?
I could put in any number for x and y
Yeah,
and solve to figure out what the other number is. And that would be a point on the line.
but you could add like, let's say 100 to 750 and 100 to 6,000, it would be the same thing, right?
No, you could add 100 to y
Oh,
and it had 100. So by either side, this is the side. You gotta draw your railroad first through the equal sign. You can add 100 here and 100 over there.
hmm,
Does that make sense?
okay.
So that's the thing. If you add 100 over here and 100 over there, you'd still simplify it to get y. So over here, when we added stuff to both sides, it's because we were trying to isolate b. That was our point. That was our goal. So we can figure out what this number is here.
Hmm.
So that's why we bother doing things like that.
And how would you know not to divide
Okay.
or something instead of adding?
Great.
You know?
So here's the thing. That's a great question. So here, I've plugged it in this spot right here. Right here, I plugged it in, yeah?
Mhm.
Now the question is, what do I need to do once I simplify this?
Right,
Okay, so I guess you should simplify everything you have in there.
right.
Right, these are like terms. Once you multiply that, you have this situation here.
Mhm.
If I'm trying to solve for b, what's going on with b? Is it being multiplied by negative 1,500? Is it being added? What's happening to it? Is it being multiplied or divided or added or
Well,
subtracted?
it's adding, yeah.
It's being added. So I need to, what's being added to it? Negative 1,500. How do you get rid of adding negative 1,500? To get rid of a negative 1,500, you add a 1,500. It's being added to it, so then you add that amount. If it was being multiplied, you divide. You have to undo it. So what undoes having pick something for B? I have a basketball, and I owe $1,500. How do I undo that? I add $1,500. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
it's being added. So how do you undo that? Technically you're subtracting. I'm subtracting negative $1,500, which is adding.
Okay. So whatever's happening with B, you just opposite it.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly. You have to undo whatever's happening to B to get it by itself.
okay.
So since it's being added to that, then I'm going to add something to get rid of that.
Okay.
If it was being divided, I would multiply.
Well, so you're not necessarily doing the opposite, you're doing the same sign, like if it's added to B, then you're adding to the bottom, you're not like minusing.
If I was,
So if that was a positive 1,500 on the top, you would still be
I
adding
would,
1,500?
I would subtract 1,500.
Oh, okay, so you're oppositing the top.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm oppositing whatever's happening to B.
Hmm.
So B is, I'm taking B and technically I'm subtracting 1,500 from it.
Mhm.
If you were to rewrite this, if I were to rewrite that, it would actually be B minus 1,500,
Hmm.
because it's B plus negative 1,500, so it's the same thing. So how do I undo minus 1,500? You add 1,500.
Okay.
So you get 0. I just need this to go away. I need the 1,500 to go, the negative 1,500 to go away.
Okay.
And since it's being added to b, you undo it by addition or subtraction. And that's the thing, addition or subtraction works like that. You can either, dividing by 3 is the same thing as multiplying by 1/3. Like, this phone costs $600. If I divided that by 2, how much is that?
300.
$300. Okay, this phone is $600. Half of that, I'm paying half of that. 1/2 times $600 is, 1/2 of 600 is what? 300. Either way, multiplying by 1/2 or dividing by 2 is the same thing. Does that make sense, folks? All right, so you could either add the kind of the reciprocal of negative 1,500. What's the additive reciprocal of negative 1,500? Positive 1,500. Right? So you can do the same thing, but with the reciprocal. Or you could subtract, or you can do the opposite action with the same thing. I could either subtract negative 1,500, or I could add 1,500. Same idea if it's 2b, if it was 2b equals 600, you can either divide both sides by 2, and you get the same thing, right? You get b equals 300, that's what you guys said. Or you could do, if 2b equals 600, you can multiply both sides by 1/2. And this would still be, 1/2 of 2b is still be 600 times 1/2. Half of 600 is 300. Are we all right with those parts?
Mhm.
Okay. So this, I'm going to erase that so I don't confuse everybody at home looking at this later. But, there we go. So the question is, how much did the water tank hold initially? What was the initial amount? The initial amount is what?
0.
Nope.
4,500.
Oh yeah, okay, the initial amount is 0. So
X equals.
x is 0, right. So initial amount is absolutely 0. It means when x is 0. So when x is 0, how much did I have? 6,000 gallons of water. So think of the y is my answer, my result. So when x was 0, my answer was b, 600. Remember, b is my initial amount. Should we review that? Y is this is my initial amount. Also known as someone else called it my y what?
Intercept?
Yep, my y-intercept. And remember, m is my slope, also known as my rate of change. So those things will help you greatly to kind of keep this stuff straight. All right, so how much did the tank hold initially? Yep, 6,000 gallons. Okay, so let's take a look at the next page. How long will it take to become empty? Aha. Here's my function, y equals negative 750x plus 6,000. That is the equation for this situation. How long will it take to become empty? So empty means something 0. What's 0? My time or my gallons of water?
Gallons.
Gallons. When the tank is empty, my gallons of water is 0. Okay, someone on this side. What is my gallons of water? My X or my Y? What did you say? You didn't say it, she said it. Someone else, what do you think? Okay, what's my x in this problem? Everybody write down what they think the x is in the problem. Check with your neighbors, and I'm gonna call on somebody in 15 seconds. Everybody check with your neighbors. I'm gonna randomly call on someone in 15 seconds. What's my x? What's my y? Check. What does x stand for? What does y stand for? They're two variables, right? Two things that, remember we talked about in the beginning? What two things vary in this problem? One's x, one's y.
Do you want me to tell you, or do you want to wait?
Is x kittens? How many kittens I have? Is y the cost of pencils in China? All right, so let's take a look at the problem. Everyone go back to the beginning.
They're trying to solve it.
I know, I just would like everybody else to get it too.
But that's not.
Okay, Natalia, read the problem for me. A water tank.
A water tank is being the first one, right? A water tank is being emptied by a pump that removes water at a constant rate. After 2 hours, the tank contains 4,500 gallons of water. And after 5 hours, the tank contains 2,250 gallons of water. 2,250 gallons of water.
Perfect, thank you. All right, so what two things are varying in this problem, changing in this problem? So two things change in this problem. What's one of them, Jenna?
Gallons of water.
Great. What's another one?
How many hours?
Yeah, hours. Which one is my x?
The hours.
Hours. David, which one's my y?
The Y is gallon.
Gallons of water. Is everyone on board? Okay. Now, we want to know
How many hours?
how long will it take the tank to become empty. Empty means what's zero? Alex, what's zero when the tank is empty?
The amount of gallons that's in the tank.
Right, the number of gallons is zero. Gallons is my what? My x or my y? My y. Everybody on board with that? So I want my y to be what? If it's empty, my y is what?
Zero.
Zero. Is everyone on board with this? So this means that y is zero. In other words, i.e., I'll put y equals zero. Right? That's what it means when the tank is empty.
Yeah.
So zero equals, right, so put in for y, right, equals negative 750 x plus 6,000, and figure out what x needs to be. Okay, so I need to figure out what x is. What's happening to x? Your x, what happens to you first? What's going on to you first? What's the first thing that happens to x? What's the closest thing to x?
Negative 7.
The negative 750. It's being what? It's x is being what by 750? Added, multiplied, divide, subtracted.
Multiply.
Multiply. So how do I undo multiply?
Division.
Divide. Perfect. So the first thing we're going to do, oh wait, that's the first thing. What's the second thing that happens to it?
It's added 6,000.
That's being added to 6,000. So when I get going in the morning, first I put my socks on, and then I put my shoes on. Everybody on board? When I get home at night, if I want to undo that, do I take my socks off first or my shoes off first? My shoes off first. The last thing I did. So when you undo stuff, you undo them in the opposite order. Right? Socks, then shoes, but when you get home, it goes the opposite. Shoes, then socks. Everybody with me? So I want to undo this stuff and get x down to they'll get down to it by itself. So I need to undo things in the opposite order. So the first thing that happens is I multiply it by negative 750. What's the second thing that happens to x after that?
Subtract 6,000.
Well, I'm adding 6,000. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's the second thing that's happening. So I need to undo those in the opposite order. So first I need to undo adding 6,000, so then I'm going to subtract 6,000 first. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm going to take off my shoes first. This is my socks. First I put on my socks. This is the first thing that happened to it. That's the second thing that happened to it. I need to undo them in the opposite order. So first, get rid of that. Do you guys understand why? It's when you undo stuff, you have to undo them in the opposite order. If it goes socks then shoes, to undo it you do shoes then socks. That's how life works. When you undo things, you have to do them, you have to do whatever you did last, you have to undo that first. So you get back to what you started from. Right? For example, if I were to go from here to San Francisco, I'd go to 580, I'd go take 580, then I'd go across the Bay Bridge to get to San Francisco. If I were to undo that and come home, I wouldn't take 580 first. I first have to go across the Bay Bridge. Do you see what I'm saying? You have to undo things in the opposite order. Right? So first, I need to, because I'm trying to get back to just x by itself. I don't want all this other stuff. So first again, draw your railroad for, what they call railroad for success, but just draw a line straight down through the equal sign so you keep your two sides separate. Now we're going to undo them. First we're going to undo the opposite order. So first we're going to undo the 6,000, which means I have to do it to both sides, subtract 6,000 from both sides. Yeah?
Oh, from that side.
From both, draw your railroad first. Draw this line straight down the middle with the equal sign. So the first thing is, you can't see the line, can you?
Oh, no.
Here, I'll make it darker. Is that better?
Yeah.
So first thing, draw this line down through the equal sign. It will save you. If you are a little bit shaky on this will save you all the time. Then, you know, you do it to this side, you do it to that side. It keeps things straight.